Yes, thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me and thank you all for coming. So he said a bit about myself there. So I've been researching this 5 years and the occult in general, I suppose, hidden knowledge. Always had this drive to learn more and I think true love, what I consider to be a true love of knowledge, which led me to this case after many years researching and kind of doing the internal struggle, I guess, that we sometimes go through in this life. So I'll begin by saying a little bit about who I am with regards to this case. So I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I suppose I'm too smart to say that. I'm not trying to put myself above you, and neither does anyone in this case tries to put themselves above anyone. I'm here to encourage you to look into this and really think for yourselves. And I'm not the official representative of this case. There is one guy in North America, his name is Michael Horn. He has been given contractual permission by Billy Meier to represent him in the press and that sort of thing. I'm not that guy. I do have their permission, they know who I am. I'm not the official spokesperson. But you can get in touch with him and some of the people in Switzerland as well. And I have never been contacted by any extraterrestrials. I've never seen a spaceship in my life. I have no memory crash landing on Earth or past lives or any of these kind of turmoils. And I'm not here to convince you of the truth. I'm not here to wrestle with you logically and corner you to the point you have no response, but to either agree with me or remain silent for fear of being seen as unreasonable. I'm not here to do that, and neither is Billy. Neither are the extraterrestrials. We recognize that you're free, not only physically, but also psychologically. You can think the way you wish to think. So they're not trying to force anything on you, and neither am I. Having said that, if you have any questions, even if you disagree with it, and you want to voice that, feel free to, at any moment, voice that, speak up. And I'll try to answer it as best as I can. And I will try to be as objective as I can. I'm trying to go from what I read, what I learned through my own self-study, which is what this is really about. And if you any moment you want to know the difference between what I'm putting into the case, my own experience, versus what's really in there, there's only one way to really find out, and that's to go and look it up yourself. You don't have to pay for anything. We don't want your money. I'm not here to try to sell you a book, a $1,500 two-day meditation. There's none of that here. It's really something that we want to give to people for free. I think that once you look into yourself, you will be amazed by it, just as I was. And in the end, you have to judge a tree by its fruit. So you look at the ideas that I'm going to present to you, and you think of, keep in mind, what could this do to the world? What could this do to me? And you can judge it that way as well. And before we continue, out of curiosity, I always ask this question: how many of you have heard of Billy Meier before? 1, 2, that's it. Out of curiosity, how did you hear about him? Did you read anything about him?
Yes, online.
Just online? Where exactly?
On YouTube.
On YouTube. So you just saw some videos and something? Okay. Any videos in particular you can think of?
Well, there's a lot of, when you just naturally come by something, there's always something that kind of argues that point too.
For and against it?
Yeah, I just kind of roll into different things.
Okay.
No one specifically recommended it, I just kind of came by.
Okay, good. And how about you?
I followed the link to YouTube for something I had read, but I can't remember what I was reading.
Okay. I always get curious because this is something that's kind of new. There's a lot of stuff out there, 2012 and this sort of thing. This is, one of that ocean of stuff. But ultimately, I think what makes this different is the evidence, and we'll talk about that as well. So getting right on it, this is Billy Meier. He lives in Switzerland right now. He was born in February the 3rd, 1937. He, in Gulag, Switzerland. His actual name is Edward Albert Meier. The nickname Billy the Kid came when he was in Tehran, that's in Pakistan. An American woman saw him, the way he was kind of acting. He was acting kind of like a Western, kind of character. Billy the Kid, you can Google it. It's it's an American kind of folklore kind of thing. For most of his life, he was a Swiss farmer, and that was after he started being contacted by a girl named Sanyasi. The contact started interfering with his job. He was a night watchman at the time. He couldn't get the money to live and do the job at the same time, so he decided to farm. But currently, he is retired on a pension from back when he was a night watchman. And in this case, he's described by the Clarion as a prophet, but that's not in the sense that we know as a prophet. We know someone who's special, who's grand. Going back to that idea that I'm not trying to put myself above you, and neither is he. A prophet, according to this group, basically means someone who proclaims the truth. That's really all there is to it. And for trying to proclaim this truth, he had to undergo 21 assassination attempts.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So quite a bit. He lives a nice, quiet life now. But back when he started telling people about this, various groups came after him. I was talking about secret societies. Some of them did try to kill him at various parts of the world. There are many of them. And there were others who were just, I suppose, offended by what he was saying, in particular with regards to religion, so they went to try to kill him. But ultimately he managed to reach out to them and just have a conversation, kind of forgive kind of thing. So not all assassinations were by secret service kind of people. And even though he's called a prophet, he's really just a man. As you can see here, he's swatting fly, an annoying fly that we all know of. He gets sick. He was married at one point. He has children. They do talk about their experience with their father, and you can look into that yourselves as well, and I'm sure you've already get this information. He's really just a man who has done the job he was supposed to do, which is to put everything on paper, 24,000 pages worth, where we ourselves are going to go out of our own volition and learn it. So it's not that you're going to rely on a priest to teach you this. You are your own hero. That's really important to this case. And there it is with his family. That's his wife, Calliope. She's from Greece, and has 3 children. I don't know what the 4th children is here. I think it's a neighbor. I'm not sure. This is another picture of the family. And this is from when he was a night watchman, just before he started being contacted by someone else. We'll also meet soon. And this is where he lives now. It's a place called Hinterschmidt-Ruti. The name of the village is Schmidt-Ruti. Hinter means behind in German, so he lives behind the village called Schmidt-Ruti. It's a farm. You can go and visit it. He lives there. The books are all there, stored safely. And we'll talk more about safety and how peculiar this place is, to our survival and the survival of the teachings as well. But having introduced him, let's meet the extraterrestrials themselves. This is not an actual drawing; it's an artist's rendition of what it was like for him to meet them in Switzerland, a very hilly kind of setting that he's got there. And this is what it looked like. He would stand there sometimes for half an hour, waiting for them to come. She would show up with the ship and bring him in, and they would meet sometimes in the ship, sometimes on the ground, just sit by a tree. They are human, like you and I. They get sick as well. They also get angry. They feel love. They eat. They sleep. They sleep 2 hours per day. They're more advanced than we are. We'll talk more about that as well. But they're really just human. They're just spiritually older than you and I. Had more lives than you and I had. And they're here to help us. So this is Spath. Spath is, at the time, he was 1,100 years old. Clarence and most humans in our universe lives about 1,000 years. We don't, and there's a reason behind it, and I'll explain that as well. He contacted Billy for the first time when Billy was 5 years old. And the contact lasted for 11 years. And he was responsible for, number one, giving Billy his basic training to prepare him for the mission that he would have here for us. And second, to find people who would help Billy with his mission. And we can meet some of these people as well. This is not an actual drawing. This is based on a drawing done by Ptah, who we'll meet shortly. It's actually his son. But if you go online, and I'll give you the website, you can see the actual drawing that Ptah did. His father, Spath, and you can see the likeness. This is essentially a true likeness of this man, as you can see it for yourself once you look up. And he passed away. When he passed away, that was when Asketh, this lady, took over. She's not from our universe. According to this case, there's 10 to the power 49 universes. Within a greater universe, they call the absolutum. They don't know what's beyond that because they're only human. They're still learning. But apparently they have evidence, scientific, that there is 10 to the power 49 universes. She comes from the universe that's parallel to ours. It's called the Dao universe, D-A-L. Her people are called the Timmers. And they are also related to us, to the Timmeri. And she took over Billy's training. Now, once Billy reached a certain age, 16 years of age, she basically got in touch with him and said, okay, you get up now and go to Turner, by foot, literally. He went all from Switzerland all the way to Pakistan. It's part of his training. There he met a man, received some teachings from him as well. Through her, he met various leaders around the world like Gandhi, like Saddam. Gandhi knew the Plejaren themselves as extraterrestrials. He was receiving their help. And she took over his training from that moment. And from Pakistan, she walked with him all the way back to Switzerland, where he met his wife in Greece, went to Switzerland, and settled down. She also took him back in the past. Apparently they have evolved so much that they can also travel back in time and also into the future. So very advanced people. And when he went back to Switzerland, he met this woman. And all of this is based on actual drawings that the top, her father, made of them all. And this is the same acid. At the time when she met Billy, 1975, January the 28th, 1975, first contact, she was 330 years old. So as you can see here, she is human. As a matter of fact, the reason Billy asked if you could take a picture of her, she said no because they were actually walking among us at the time. Apparently they were buying some stuff, lots of things. Like her father, Pata, likes to collect stamps. Apparently, in their planet, they have a museum with every single car ever made on Earth. It kind of makes sense, right? Because you're traveling through the universe. There's so much variety, so much beauty. You want to go back home and take something with you, right? Kind of souvenir. We do that, so they do that as well. And they're walking among us. They actually collect minerals. They know we like they call triples. We barbarians like triples, so they get like gold and that sort of thing. They go into the desert, sell it to desert people because there's no need for papers or anything like that, CIA SIN number or anything like that. And then they take that currency and buy whatever it is that they need. So they are really just like us and very attractive, which I can talk more about afterwards, since there's something here to like as well. That back there is an actual ship. It's called a beam ship. It's called a beam ship because it uses light propulsion. We will eventually develop this technology. We're not quite there yet, but they say we are on our way, and there's more about that aspect of it as well. And they use this ship in particular because they say we have genetic memory of the ship. So once we look at more pictures, maybe you can look at how that moves you or how it makes you feel. I don't know. When I saw the picture for the first time, I froze and really felt its connection to this. I can understand it, so perhaps you will feel the same as well. But anyways, I'll give you a gif of how it works. So they use light propulsion to send the ship to the speed of light. Turn it off. The collapsing energy is absorbed by a second drive called the hyperdrive. And that energy is used to propel the ship several million times over the speed of light. It essentially dematerializes the ship. You know how quantum physics is talking about matter's energy? It sends the ship into energy, a state where, and in that state, time and space collapse, and then they just rematerialize in a different area of the universe. That's the travel. It takes 7 hours to get here using this technology, and but they can do it now in a flash. They just send themselves, largely because of Asket's people. They shared some of their technology with to help them with the travel. And this is her father. His name is Pata. At the time, he was 790 years old when Billy met him. He is what is known as an Ishwish, and that means a master of wisdom. So he has the maximum knowledge that his people have in their own evolution. Now, that may seem very grand, but it also has a lot of responsibility. He's apparently an excellent physician, a doctor, and he has to provide his people with, his service, his professional service, and also help his people benefit from his wisdom. That's part of the requirement of the Ishwish. In his case, he's also the commander of that ship you can see right there. That's about 17 kilometers in height. It can house 147,000 people. It was right here on Earth when they were here, and then in 1995 when they concluded their mission, which was to record the spiritual teachings, they packed their bags and left. They have other missions around the universe to do. They're helping other races, which is common. They say that once you evolve to a certain point, you can do anything. They can travel back in time, and then life becomes more about love, about helping other creatures, and that's kind of what they're doing right now. Not only with us, but other creatures around the universe as well. And the final guy that was involved with the case is Quetzal. He's also Plejaren. He is the commander of all the stations they had here in our solar system. He, I don't know exactly how old he was at the time, but he's apparently a great inventor. He's very knowledgeable as well. He helped Billy a lot. And he also has a cabin in his planet where he likes to be isolated. His wife does not have permission to go there, but he likes to learn there, and he also has some dairy cows that he likes to look after. again, they're just people. But after all this introduction, I'll let Billy himself tell you a bit about the keys. And you'll get a feel of what we have here.
My name is Edward Albert Meier, and all around the world I am simply called Billy. I received the name in Tehran when I was on the road, and since then this name has remained with me. I'd say, in and of itself, my childhood was very good and very pleasant for me. I learned very much on the one hand because of my parents, and on the other hand because of an extraterrestrial called Spock, whom I got to know in 1943.
How old were you then?
I was 5 years old. And this man, Spock, taught me very much of my school knowledge, besides many other things, just as Pastor Emmanuel Zimmerman. Then I confided in the pastor, and he told me I did not need to be afraid. He explained to me what telepathy is. Whenever I ran off, Spock helped me to hide somewhere, or he took me in a spaceship, and he flew somewhere with me where we could talk and where I could learn from him. I joined the French Foreign Legion because I simply wanted to leave everything behind me, the false accusations and so forth. I wanted to elude the court, and then when I was in the Legion, I came to the conclusion that that was not the correct way. That's why I returned to Switzerland, and I gave myself up to the authorities, who locked me up in an institution for more than 2 years. In each case, I financed the travels by working underway, as is customary and right, to honestly make my way through life. Now and then, Spock also took me to various government people who I met, and with whom I could speak, and indeed, through a speech translator, the small translation device which had been fastened on my belt or breast pocket, and so each time I could have a conversation with the concerned person without problems. Spock had previously been with each of these people who had introduced me. He had had conversations with them, and he was known by them as an extraterrestrial. There were various persons, for example, Gandhi in India, Farouk down in Egypt, and in Abyssinia in today's Ethiopia, I met Selassie. I met Saddam Hussein during one of my travels down into Baghdad. At that time, he was about the same age as I was, about 22 years old, I think. I don't know any more precisely because it was a long time ago. He was already someone who had turned to crime and who said that if he could one day somehow take control, he would do everything to be recognized by the people, even if he had to play the role of a holy person. When Spock died in the early 50s, I was contacted by a female nurse. A short time later, a young woman named Oscar appeared, who then took up contact with me. And these contacts lasted for another 11 years. Together with Askat, I traveled around and was also able to make various trips into the past with her and also into the future, but I don't want to talk about the travels into the future. I not only told friends, but also other people about the future, and some of them even misused that information and tried to make money from it and were sentenced to prison.
Okay, so that was a bit of giving him a chance to speak for himself. That's an excerpt from a documentary called The Silent Revolution of Truth. You can download it for free online at dayfly.com. If you forget it, I'll put up the site afterwards. So that was Billy Meier. But before we continue, is there any questions? Anything that interests you at all? Oh, okay, it's talking about this. Okay. If you have any questions that interest you. No? Okay, but any time to put up your hand, then we'll stop and talk about it. I want to make this something that appeals to you. So now is when we get into the message, right? What are they trying to say? What are they here for? So their message, they say that the beginning is something that they call creation. It's a conscious force, as in it exists. And this creation is what created the universe. It actually started as a Big Bang, as our scientists have come to realize. And in that bang, there were two universes created. One is the Tao universe, which is where the Timur, Askis people are from. And the other is our universe, which is called the Dern. And they refer to the creation as the universe we live in. It's everywhere. And like I said, it's a conscious energy. And to get into the message itself, they say that the universe is much older than we think it is. It's approximately 46 trillion years old. And they say that there's life all over the universe. And it took time for life to develop itself and evolve. And we are part of that. We're part of that order as well. And in terms of life, human life in the universe, they say that there is 10 to the power of 63 humans in this universe at this moment. That's 10 to the power of 63 different races. That's that many races everywhere. Within our galaxy, there are 7.5 million different human races. And out of those, about 2 million have mastered space travel. In other words, they can go from one solar system into the next, several light years away. So their message is there's life everywhere. When we get out there, we'll be amazed at how much life there is. And they're humans, essentially like you and I. They're evolving, they're growing, they're learning, they err, and they learn from those errors. There are races out there that are in wars right now, have been in wars in the past. The Clarons had their last wars more 50,000 years ago. And they say that war out there is really what holds people back. You build technology and you grow, and then a war breaks out, and everything gets destroyed, you have to start all over again, building yourself up. So they're really people like you and I. A lot of people think of extraterrestrials as these masters, let's bow before them, follow their demand. What they're saying is that's not what it is at all. And you are also living in space like the rest of us. As a matter of fact, we're at the fringe of the galaxy. We're very isolated from everyone. So we're actually more of an alien to our galaxy than they are to us. And there's people of all forms. They look different than you and I do. Some are green, some are blue, some are orange. Here on Earth, we have several different colors. So we have Europeans who are white, Asians who are yellow. I'm from Brazil, so a mixture of black and white. So I became something else, a new race, added to the 10 to the power of 63. And there are the red Indians. So there's some variety here. Out there, the variety is even greater than what we have here. And they're just humans, they're learning, they're growing, they're evolving, they live their lives like we do. They have homes, they have children. Reproduction out there is the same as it is here. That's not different either. And there are, feelings that come from that contact with the opposite sex, and it's the opposite sex coming together. So in that sense, it's not, far out there, as far out there as we think. We're a member of this, creation, and we're also having our own experiences just like people out there are. And they say that there are humans who are, we consider them to be ugly or even monsters like this guy, but they are ultimately just humans having their own experience. They love, they feel pain, and they learn as well. And of course, there are those that are not so nice, warring humans that exploit and take advantage, that wish to destroy. The Pleiadian right now, they have a federation of about 5 billion people in their federation. We fall under their protection because we have not evolved enough to deal with these other creatures. When will we evolve enough? Well, once we develop the technology to leave our solar system and enter that of another, by that point we will have the necessary weapons to defend ourselves. And that's something else they teach us. A lot of people have this image where we have to evolve and disarm and this sort of thing. They say you do that, you're in big trouble. That's not what it is at all. They point to nature to that. They say that everything that lives has a means of preserving its own life. So the tree has the bark to shield itself. Grasshoppers are horses, they can flee danger. Leopards, lions, they can destroy that which threatens their own lives. Humans are no different. So we're only different in that we can do all three at the same time, or in a combination thereof. But ultimately, we always have to preserve the means to defend ourselves, not only here on Earth, but from the people out there. And they do say that ultimately we are going to have to deal with them as well. So even after we establish peace here, we're still going to have to deal with the guys out there. Tough crowd. Any questions before we continue? No? Okay. So continuing with the message, what they say about our past, and this is where I think we start to tie in the loose ends and give a better image of what they're trying to say. So what do they say about our past? So our race in particular, the way we look right now, we come from an area in our galaxy called Lyra. You can look it up afterwards. And as the creation created life, the humans of Lyra evolved just the same way we're evolving here. They grew, they learned, and they eventually traveled in space, like we're doing right now. But then they evolved to the point where they could travel to other solar systems. But in that evolution, they also erred, and they also started warring with each other, as it often happens. So wars broke out in Lyra. And in that war breaking out, there was one group in particular that went to Sirius. The Clarins themselves come from Lyra as well, but from Lyra, once wars break out, people tend to immigrate. The Pleiadians immigrated to the Pleiades, which is where they are right now. There was one group in particular that matters to us that went to Sirius. And that group in Sirius, they weren't evil or anything like that. They wanted to evolve and learn and grow, but in that, they entered what they call a positive imbalance. So there is the negative, and then there's a positive. What the Pleiadians say is that both are in imbalance, need to be neutral. You can degenerate into the negative, which is where we are right now, we destroy and that sort of thing, but you can also degenerate into the positive. And I kind of see people doing that here on Earth. I've done it myself, where we tend to be, so much positive thinking to the point where you ignore reality. Well, that's the positive decay. This group in Sirius, they decayed in the positive in that they engineered all aggression out of their DNA. They thought that would be a good thing, so they did it. But that was an error, and they quickly learned that because there were groups, those aggressive ones that I told you about, they figured that out. They thought, okay, we can take these guys on easy. Keep them, do whatever we wish with their planet, so on and so forth. They saw the error, and their chosen solution, which wasn't a good one, is they chose to take another inferior race of humans and engineered them to be soldiers. So what they did is they took their DNA and they increased the aggression, so they would be more willing to fight and hurt one another. And as a precaution, they decreased their lifespan to about 100 years. And so they deployed them into battle, and the strategy worked. They were able to fend off the people who wanted to harm them. But in that, they also failed once again, because the humans that they used, they started rebelling against them. The reason they did that is because they had what is known as a spark of creation in them, what we call here a spirit. They had the capacity to choose, they had the desire to learn, and in that, they revolted against their masters. In the case, they're called the overlords, or really just humans like you and I. And in that rebellion, the overlords decided that the solution, given the danger of this race, they could be used for harm, was to destroy them. But there was one group among them that disagreed with that. They thought, no, they have the spark of creation. They need a chance to learn and evolve themselves. So they decided to help a certain group escape. And in that, the case tells us that there was a flight, running away from the Syrians in space, and there were a lot of troubles. They lost much of their history in the process. There was even shortage of food that led to cannibalism. But that race in particular, they ultimately managed to flee. Not all of them did, but this one did. And they managed to find their way into this solar system. The Clarins call it the Sol system, S-O-L. And in this planet is where we are to this day, hidden from them. And this is kind of where we start to touch bases with why the Clarins are here. We have that DNA where we are extremely aggressive, but we also have a decreased lifespan, where essentially like a fly who lives only for 2 weeks and is born during the rainy season, never gets to see the summer. We only live for 100 years. We are born in the winter, and we don't get to see human beings really love each other and live a life without greed, without excessive lust, without destroying each other. We never got to see that, and the Clarins see that it's a tremendous crime that they did to us. We're not alone in this. there was other groups that escaped. One in particular went to a place called Nissan, and they're evolving and so on and so forth. But out there, other humans, they know who we are. They know how much we suffer. They know it's not really our fault, but they also know that we have the power to decide, which is why they're not going to come here and help us. We are responsible for ourselves. We have to choose to do what is right. And they're here to help us along that way. Okay? So you guys are kind of getting the image that I'm trying to paint for you here. But I mean, our archaeologists are discovering this sort of thing. There's tremendous evidence of this. I can give you authors that know that there are civilizations that precede ours, immensely more advanced than we are right now. There are groups on Earth that try to hide that. They know who Billy Meier is. They know where we come from. They know about Leroy. They know about Sirius, and they are trying to control us. They know about the DNA. They know how to throw us into war, and they want the power. And we're warned against these groups, and we're given some strategies to deal with them, and I'll talk about that as well. But in terms of some of the discoveries, I managed to find this interesting video. I'm going to show it to you guys right now, and you guys tell me what you think of it.
Located more than 500 miles away from the crowded streets of Istanbul, Şanlıurfa, in southeastern Turkey. There, in 1994, on a dusty hilltop, a local shepherd noticed the tip of a stone sticking out of his field. He began to dig, eventually unearthing a 19-foot pillar. Its edges were precise, and rising from its center was a relief carving of a strange animal. Upon closer examination, it appeared that the finely chiseled stone had been fashioned by talented stonemasons, working with advanced tools. When word of the discovery reached the scientific community, one fact became obvious. A Kurdish shepherd had stumbled upon what is perhaps the most astonishing archaeological discovery in modern times, a site known as Göbekli Tepe.
For 13 years, a German archaeology team has been meticulously going into a hill, and they have been doing carbon dating as deep as they go. It has taken them 13 years to uncover only 5% of a gigantic civilization. They know what's under the ground. Circles upon circles upon circles, perfect circles in stone. And rising up out of those stone circles are huge sculpted columns, 19 feet high, 15 tons per column.
Test results have supported the idea that Göbekli Tepe is nearly 12,000 years old, almost 7,000 years older than Mesopotamia's Fertile Crescent, long heralded as the cradle of civilization.
In Göbekli Tepe, the oldest advanced site now on our planet, we know of no other site that is this advanced. It has now doubled the history of humanity.
But right there is this gigantic site with huge megalithic circular structures. It just stands there, a mystery, asking us to go figure, how was this done? What's the background to this? We don't know who made them. They just come out of the darkness of the last ice age where we know nothing and enter the stage of history already fully formed. And to my mind, this is indicative of a major forgotten episode in human history.
Could the discovery of Göbekli Tepe radically change our understanding of human history? And might proof of an ancient civilization provide evidence that mankind's most puzzling myths might actually be based in fact?
A lot of myths, a lot of legends suggest that there were past civilizations of astounding sophistication at incredibly early periods. I think we have little glimmers, little suggestions around the world that there was something going on much higher, much more sophisticated, at a much earlier period of time.
To put things into perspective, Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old. That is several thousand years earlier in age than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid. And indeed, according to biblical tradition, the world really began in 4000 BC, and yet that is 8,000 years later than the foundation of Göbekli Tepe. So clearly we have here something that contradicts our normal understanding of the evolution of civilization.
Okay, so that's a video that I pulled from the History Channel, just illustrating that we are now starting to discover essentially what has been written in this case for the past 5 decades. That I'm aware of, Billy was the first one that wrote about it, and why is that? I don't know. I guess you have to come to your own conclusions in your own time. But essentially what that video says, and what I'm trying to say here, is advanced civilization in this earth is much older than we think it is. According to this case, it actually goes back to 230,000 years ago. There were already humans coming here, warring among themselves, and essentially leaving once they destroyed everything. The earth shifted several times, and all kinds of chaos. And here we have images of Egyptian statues, and some groups did go to Egypt. They did build civilizations there. And what one group in particular did several thousand years ago is they used a strategy to try to take control of us humans. And what they did is they called themselves creation. And what they said is, I created you, so you cannot, question me. You cannot fight against me. You can never win against me. Kind of trying to break our spirit. And it's a type of mind control that this case tells us it was. But in the end, they were only humans. And many of these humans were actually part of the group that helped us escape to Earth. Some of them actually turned against us. They saw the potential. They saw that nobody was there to help us. So they thought, okay, we can use these guys to, take over the universe, kind of thing. And in that, they pretended to be creation and called themselves, in the German word translation of Ishwish. Remember I was talking about the Ta, how he's an Ishwish? The German translation of Ishwish is God, G-O-D. So, in other words, according to this case, the gods of the past, Krishna, Jehovah, they were all humans pretending to be creation in order to take control of us. And in that, they established religions all over the earth that, to this day, they're not only a danger to us, but as you'll find out later on, they're also a danger to people out there. Because we're starting to reach that point in our evolution, just like all humans, where we're starting to get out there. They're actually very much afraid that, with the harm that was done by these people, by these gods, that we're going to take our division from here and carry it out there and break the peace that currently exists in our galaxy. And it's a very delicate peace. The Lyrians, they caused a lot of problems all over the galaxy. Our race as humans were well known. Some people don't like us. So they're trying to help us let go of these ideas. I mean, one of the problems with religion, they say, is this notion that something else outside of you is going to help you. You're not responsible for yourself. Just pray, and that will come to you. They say that that's a false belief that was established by those people, and that we need to uproot this and replace it with you're responsible for yourself. You don't like the world you live in? You don't like your house? Build a bigger one. And the plans live according to this. Even though they're extremely advanced, Billy talks about shaking their hands. They don't shake their hands out there, but we do here. So he would shake their hand, and he noticed that their hands were very calloused. And he asked them, why is your hand so calloused? You're such refined, advanced people. And they explained to him that they plant their own food. They can travel in time, but they're planting their own food. They learned that you cannot abdicate that to someone else. And they're telling us that we should start doing the same thing ASAP before things get really bad. A lot of people start to die. So they're trying to help us, give us advice. in doing this. And I've tried planting my own food as well. Last year was the first year I did it. It was a good learning curve, and I must say I thought it was a great experience, planting my food and eating what I had planted. It's not hard. It only takes about half an hour a day, and it basically means that you don't have to spend that much time in the office working for someone else to earn something that is rightfully yours. Life, food grows for free. Nobody should die hungry. Okay, so that's part of their teaching. What they're trying to give us. But as far as the idea of God goes, the best thing to do is to drop it. And this is a quote from Yuri, how do you pronounce it, Gagarin. He was the first man in space. He was Russian, 1961. He gets up there, and the first thing he says is, "I see no God up here," and there really isn't. And this is something I pulled off the internet. So as you can see here, we have a comparison between the Titanic and Noah's Ark. Size 175 feet, 45 feet, so on and so forth. Steel. The Titanic had provisions for 3,500 people for a couple of weeks, whereas Noah's Ark, being as small as it is, 50,000 animals, 2 million insects for a year. So what I'm driving at here is something else that they teach us, and it's irrational thinking. One of the things that religion established in us is literally they got us used to over the course of decades, centuries, and even now, we're born and taught to think irrationally. They're saying, don't do that. That's against creational law. Creational law is in the law of nature. The same law that governs the insects, fauna, governs us, and we cannot contradict that. One of them is you need to think rationally about things. So you don't just cross the street without looking both sides. That's illogical. You look at both sides because there is a danger there. So one of the things that religion established is this, way of irrationally thinking. How do you break out of that? You literally practice rational thinking. You observe your thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking irrationally, you correct them. You don't think that way. That's essentially how you get through that. It's very difficult, I know. And I know because I grew up in a Christian home. I was taken to church 3 days a week, sometimes more. I grew up, I was a hardcore Christian. So I grew up watching people falling on the floor, screaming and yelling, "That's Satan, get out Satan," this sort of thing. I grew up with that, and those beliefs were established in me. And then when I was 16 years old, I started questioning that. Looking at the Bible, and I would see verses like, how Jehovah was telling the Israelites to go and kill those people, enslave them. I'm thinking, that's not right. This isn't very godly. What's going on here? So I started to question these things, and I broke out of it. It's very difficult. It took me 6 years to break out of it. 6 years. And I was forcing myself into it, discipline, reading, meditating, and, trying hard to find the truth, whatever that is. And I managed to break out of it. And I never broke out of it when I was 22, and that was when I finally looked at the heavens and I said, "You don't exist." I wasn't afraid of, dying or anything like that. Now, that was a period in my life where I was an atheist. There is no God. I can do whatever I want. But I evolved, I grew, I continued to learn. And I eventually came to the conclusion that, yes, there is a beginning. And given that the effect is intelligent, you and I think the beginning is also intelligent. That was just the conclusion that I reached back then. And, and I don't think that beginning is what the Bible says it is, or what the Buddhists say it is. I don't know what that beginning is, but I know it's there given the effect. That's kind of how I evolved myself, and I'm just kind of sharing that with you. My experience of breaking out of religion, and learning to think for myself, to take responsibility for myself. So once again, for emphasis, the notion of God, according to them, we should just drop that. That's creating division among us. It could cause a lot of problems out there. So it's best we try to think rationally about everything, including religion, so we can arrive at truths through our own work. Okay? So is that clear what that message is? I hope so. If you have any questions, just ask anytime. If you feel as if you want to share something, do it as well. But I said a lot about what they're trying to teach. I'll let Billy give you a spiritual lesson as well right now.
Das Universum, das ist schon
The universe is already very, very old, and everything took its time to come into being, even human life. The beginning is the cause from which the effect came about. It's the law of causality which has to take effect.
Kausalgesetz, das wirken muss. Der Sinn des Lebens ist die Evolution.
The meaning of life is the human being's evolution with regard to his consciousness.
Gott, das ist eine imaginäre Gestalt, die die Menschen geschaffen haben.
Billy, what is God?
God is an imaginary figure which has been created by human beings so they don't have to bear responsibility themselves. Rather, they can shift it onto a deity, but God, in and of itself, is nothing other than a title for a human being who is very highly evolved.
Gott ist also nicht das, was die Menschen irrtümlich annehmen.
God is therefore not what human beings wrongly assume, that he is the creator of life, the creator of the universe, of space. God is nothing other than a title, be it Allah or Shiva, etc.
Der versucht immer eine Macht über sich zu setzen.
The human being always tries to set a power above himself, and he calls it God. This God or this power is supposed to be responsible for him and everything and anything that he says, does, thinks and feels, and so forth, and for his fate.
Der Mensch ist für alles und jedes, das selbst denkt.
The human being is solely responsible for each and everything he thinks, does, feels, and undertakes. He must be responsible for it.
Muss das Positive und das Negative.
He must bear and savor all the positive and negative which he processes through his thoughts, actions, and feelings.
Dann sind die Menschen
Then the human beings are no longer in a position to think for themselves. They still only think in the framework prescribed by religions, sects, philosophies, and ideologies.
Philosophien und Ideologien. Der Mensch muss aber aus sich selbst heraus seine Gedanken pflegen.
But the human beings must nurse their thoughts from within themselves. They have to learn their thoughts and create the respective feelings. And it is only then that they may detach themselves from that which the false teachings, the erroneous teachings, which hammering fear into them are bringing.
Okay, so that was a short little lesson with him. And any questions at all? Okay, good. And you guys up for a break right now? A 10-minute break? Or do you want to continue for a bit longer? You like to continue? Okay, we shall. So, leaving a bit of what their message is, spiritual teachings, let's look into some other questions that people have, generally when they look at this case. And what is their purpose? This is an image of Ptah once again. Like this, he drew this himself. So, going back to that idea of we are starting to evolve and reach that point where we're going to enter space, that is a great concern to them. And in that, he says, this means that the still guaranteed peace will be destroyed by your religion and degenerate to murderous wars and great destruction. And just to prevent this occurrence is a great and difficult mission for spiritually developed space traveling forms of life. So in other words, we're having a huge hard time here, keeping you guys from A, destroying yourselves, and B, causing problems in our neighborhood. And as you read through the case, you'll see Billy talking to them about it. The way the case is structured, the writings that I was telling you about, there's 24,000 pages, and it's basically, the date, the time, a description of where they're meeting, and the conversation starts, hi, how are you? Hi, I'm Semyasin. It's nice to meet you. I will be taking over your teachings now. That Aska is not hers. And in that discussion, go back and forth, they eventually reach the point where the player themselves, they're ready to give up. Because they don't get us. They're saying, you guys are so irrational, we can't get through to you. You're not only about to destroy your whole planet, you're about to cause a lot of problems are here for us. We don't get you. Like, what is going on? So, and there was, in fact, a point where they stopped talking with Billy. They said, okay, now you guys need to, because he has a group of people around him to support him and help him, that Scott brought to him and that sort of thing. He said, okay, you guys need to figure this out amongst yourselves. We don't want to talk to you anymore. So that's how difficult it was for them, and it is a concern for them. And it has been for a long time. I mean, the events that I was telling you about Lyra, they happened about 230,000 years ago. Sirius about 100,000 years ago. And since then, 100,000 years, they're still trying. So, you know, it's been difficult for them. And Ptah said that in July 17th, 1975. So we are, you know, either way, they still think that we need a chance. They say that you can only take a life under two conditions. One, to save your own, and second, to save that of another. So Billy, even in his home, he was being attacked by people. His family were, you know, there was one point where they tried to kidnap his daughter. He has a lot of guns there, you know, M16s. And there's a video where he says that, where he shows them, the Silent Revolution of Truth video. I'll show you where to get it. You can see the guns he's got. And the Pterans themselves, their ships, they're fully armed. I'll show you the Ptah ship, the 17-kilometer high one, fully armed with everything you can imagine. Laser cannons, shields. I mean, they travel with heavy-duty guns. And we are evolving, you know, this is our technology now, but there will come a point when we're going to get out there and, you know, achieve a better way of traveling in space. Better technology. And, you know, it's going to be a wonderful time for us, but also dangerous for, you know, life in the universe. I don't know what that's going to look like, what technology will develop, or will be unique to us. They have their own ships. You know, Svath, for example, he has a Kira-shaped ship. Looks like a Kira. It was given to him by some of his friends in Sirius. What will ours look like? I don't know. And we will experience space travel. You know, the wonders of the world out there. I don't know what it will look like. I suppose this is what it could look like when we travel out there. You know, tremendous beauty, a lot of love, happiness. We can have our own food for free. You know, beautiful clothes. We can have all these things. We really have to change our attitude towards one another and ourselves. And, you know, as for our cousins and brothers and sisters out there, I'm sure they are waiting for us. You know, they feel sorry for us, but really they can't do much for us other than, you know, give us a chance to learn and grow. So until then, we have a lot of development to do, and, you know, we'll gradually get out there and we'll join them. I think we can, which is kind of why I'm here telling you this. You know, teach you what I know, and hope that you can teach others as well. You can take responsibility for yourself. You know, have a positive influence within your sphere of influence, your family, your neighborhood, your life. It really starts with yourself, and then you can, you know, multiply and grow from there. And that's that they say that's where the real change is going to come from. It's the individual saying, okay, I'm not going to be part of the system anymore. We're all ultimately part of the system. As in, you know, we are not there in Afghanistan right now pulling the trigger, but we're still connected to that. We may not be creating the bullets, making them. We're not making the bulletproof vest, but, you know, we're doing the accounting for the guy who makes the bulletproof vest. We're providing him with food. We're providing the farmer who provides the children with food, with, you know, with clothing, with his son with education. We're part of that system. We need to detach ourselves from it and create one where we're in control and we're not using it to harm others. Okay, that's their suggestion to us. It's not going to come easy. It took us centuries to get where we are right now. It's going to take us centuries to get out of it. And a lot of work, creation of a new culture, a new life. It doesn't mean you won't have technology. Your iPhone doesn't mean that. It just means that instead of having some, you know, poor soul in China make your iPhone, you're probably going to learn how to make it yourself. And we can do that. There will be no slavery, and, you know, from that we'll develop the true technology so we can get out there, you know, live the lives that they say we can have, and I think we can really have that. But, you know, on the note of spread information, the case goes into, you know, not only this heavy stuff, but also stuff that interests us, light stuff, like UFOs, for example. You know, we see a lot of images and videos, this sort of thing. They say that most of the UFOs we see actually made here on Earth. There are groups here that make them all over the Earth. There's a group in Brazil, the US has it, England has it, Russia, China, to various degrees. But they all have things that to us look like a spaceship. Some of them pretend to be extraterrestrials, they really aren't. They're right here on Earth. There are extraterrestrials that come here. According to the Ptah, there's 2,000 different races per year that come here to look at us. Tourism, so to speak. They know who we are. They know the Ptah and have disseminated information. So they're all out there kind of watching us. You know, what's going to happen now? Are they going to blow themselves up or change? So we represent kind of an earlier stage of their evolution. In many cases, they've forgotten as well because they destroyed themselves, the records and whatnot. And abductions do occur, not very common. For example, there are creatures out there that can't feel. We humans, we have our five senses, right? We touch, see, sight, so on. And we have a sixth. We feel. We feel pain, we feel love, anger. There are apparently creatures out there that don't feel pain, love, that sort of thing. So they're fascinated by us humans. Some of them have come here, kidnapped us, and used us for exhibitions out there somehow. Not very common. We don't have to worry about it. And there are groups here on Earth that do abduct, to do experiments, and kidnap essentially, while pretending to be extraterrestrials. The reason behind that is they want to keep us away from the people who want to help us, strike fear in us. But ultimately, most of this mumbo jumbo about extraterrestrials is from right here on Earth, and we'll talk a bit more about these groups and what their intent is and their origins as well. This is actual pictures of one of them. Nazi Germany in our history is very important, and the Terrans, they had their hand on that as well. These are actual pictures of ships. So here we have what is known as a Brill ship. The Germans invented this. I think it was February the 21st, 1941 was when they had their first successful flight. The ship uses more advanced technology, not that different from what we have, but it uses 3 Mercedes-Benz engines, truck engines, to do what it does. Very fast. I think it's 12,000 kilometers per hour. And it flew on, in 1941, 15,000 meters, I think, into the air. So extremely, far more advanced than we are. They don't want to share this type of technology with us. They want to keep us behind, move themselves forward. And that's kind of the system we're a part of. We're ultimately feeling that with our work and labor every day. So we need to move away from that. This group in particular is German. They went to, once they lost the war, they went to Brazil. And this is their ship now. As you can see, it looks more like a beam ship. And it's more advanced than what they had back then. And this guy in particular, his name is George Adaminsky. The group from Brazil was pretending to be Venetians from Venus and giving him, UNS information, kind of in espionage called counterintelligence. So intelligence is when you want to gather information about what the enemy is doing. Counterintelligence is when you want to disseminate false information, so they make a wrong move. So we're going over here, they think you're going over there, but in reality you're going a different way, and you circle them, kind of thing. A lot of these groups here on Earth, they try to do that, to deceive us. There's a lot of people who say they're being contacted by the Pleiadians, the Andromedans, all this sort of thing. My advice to you there is know what you believe in and why you believe in it. If somebody says they're challenging somebody, ask them for evidence. You look at the evidence and you make a decision. That's really all there is to it. If there is no evidence, well, you got to decide too, right? So be careful with this kind of counterintelligence sort of thing. There's a lot of it here. So my advice to you is be careful. And, on the topic of other things that the case covers, a lot of people are into symbols and that sort of thing. There's a lot of that in this case as well, meditations, nice stories about our past, and all this sort of thing. I've talked to you about the technology, they go a bit into that, so it's very wide-ranging. It covers many different topics. And of course, we get into a very important part of this, which is the evidence. And now, would you like to stop now, since it's 8:05, or would you like to continue? I think we should stop. 10 minutes. Go to the bathroom, check your text messages, and then we'll get into the evidence behind it, which is very important.
How long will we have on?
I'll let you get an hour or two. Switch.
See well? It's going to be
Okay, so here we go. Evidence. There's quite a bit of it on this case. There's the pictures. I'm going to go through all of these. There's the sound recordings. I'm going to show you what a beam ship actually sounds like.